Hi traders, the Fed are expected to hold their interest rate in about 12 hours, and that really puts it down to whether the Fed will give a more hawkish tone, which they could do given what's going on in the Middle East, or will Jerome Powell decide to do a copy and paste job and just let the next guy deal with it? And that's quite possible because he's pretty much out the door anyway. So a couple of days ago, I was going towards a dollar strength story. I'm now coming around to the latter case if I think we might end up with a weaker US dollar because there's not really incentive for him to change much up before we leave the office. So let's take a look at the US dollar index and then onto the euro and a couple of euro crosses. The dollar index, if you've seen previous videos, I think we've seen quite an important swing high on the 31st of March. I'm now moving lower. For me, it's a question now of whether we've seen the high already down here and it will continue lower. Or we'll get a movement higher. It's really down to the Fed how this one plays out. So just keeping in mind at the moment, it is trading above both of the 200-day moving averages. That's the simple and the exponential as well. So a little bit of hawkishness tonight. Could see this one take out this high, possibly got to gap resistance, maybe somewhere towards the monthly pivot point. But I think further out, I'm looking for a swing high on the daily time frame for it to roll over. So looking at that from the euro, of course, if we get a high dollar index, 57% of that is euro based. So if we get a high dollar index, you're probably going to get a break lower for the euro. Now, the level to keep an eye on really is these lows here. It was a pivotal level. You got the 10th March high support on the 13th of April and last week as well, a couple of times. You got the 200-day exponential moving average and that level there. So at the moment, if prices can hold above these lows, I think there's a decent chance of the euro moving higher. If we break beneath these lows, and certainly if we get a daily close, I'm going to make the assumption that we're probably heading towards 116. At the moment, I still think Jerome Powell's probably not going to feel too compelled to be too hawkish, and that could end up with maybe we'll get a movement down as we head towards the meeting and then movement up. Now, the thing to keep in mind with FOMC meetings is as you get closer to the liquidity is horrendous. So if you're looking at messing around on intraday timeframes ahead of the meeting, you can get some horrible, nasty moves. It's just not worth it to me. I would sooner wait until after, see what happens, and then look for the bigger move, hopefully after the meeting when you know what's going on. So what might happen, for example, is because you've got the interest rate decision and then press conference 30 minutes later, we could, for example, have a movement down, breaks these lows, the press conference happens and it rockets higher. So personally, I think you're looking for at least after the press conference to get a better gauge. Does the press conference confirm what we're hearing in the meeting? But anyway, whilst prices remain above here, I think the euro could be headed higher. And that brings it on to euro yen, because this has been a really decent uptrend, and we're now looking at this potential falling wedge at the top of that uptrend. The question for me really is, have we already seen the low yesterday? Got a nice bullish pin bar here above the 186 handle. So again, if euro dollar is set to rise, then there's a decent chance euro yen will rise as well. So again, maybe we'll be treated to a retracement within that range there before the movement higher. If this is a successful falling wedge, it should target the highs there. And of course, you've got the 1990 high, very significant level. It's an obvious level for traders to book profits. I would expect some noise around here if we do get up that high. Of course, and similar to euro, if we get beneath 186, something's gone wrong, then my bullish bias is invalidated, and I think there's a decent chance we could be headed towards 185, simply because it's a round number and it's near a weekly VPOC and a high volume node from this entire rally. So 186 is a pivotal level to keep an eye on. My bias is bullish whilst we remain above it. And then finally, Euro CAD. I wouldn't say this is my favorite one. It's just at an interesting level. So you've got this decent rally from the March low to April high. It's now retraced around half of that move. But yesterday we've been presented with this bullish engulfing candle above the 50 exponential moving average. And and it's now trading around the 200-day average as well. So this one, I think, like the other two, to get the most out of it, if you are looking at a bullish setup, probably needs to get some mean reversion within yesterday's range for it to make sense. Because I'm just looking for a move up to 161 in that 50% level. So it's not a huge move. At current levels, it's barely a 1-to-1 or 1.5 to 1. So if we can get a movement down maybe towards these sort of levels, you can increase the potential reward to risk. And of course, the invalidation point for me is whilst prices remain beneath this 50% level, move to 161. Don't know what's going to get it there in all honesty, but technically it looks quite interesting. Anyway, as always, hope that's useful. Wish you best of luck with your trading.